Testing, 1, 2. I'm gonna do a little verse of the limitations. We're greater than our limitations. They say we can't do what they had to. Faith is what we need, not a lot, a little bit more than the mustard seed. We're greater than our limitations. They say we can't do what they had to. Faith is what we need, not a lot, a little bit more than the mustard seed. Now one can move a molehill, two can move a mountain. Hey, one can move 10, two can move 10,000. They owe us reparations for slavery in this nation. We got to stand up. God promised us He'll never leave or forsake us. We're greater than our limitations. We hand clap. Hey, what up, America? It's your boy, Bushan Glover. You just tuned into the BL Glover Show. Today is Friday, Halloween Eve. And next week when we connect, we're going to know who the President of the United States is. So that's why I got my suit on today. That's why I'm looking a little conservative today. There's a lot going on. And in the entertainment block, entertainment, sports, politics, and money is our thing. So in the entertainment block, last week, well, 2 weeks ago, it was Ice Cube. Last week it was 50 Cent. This week is Lil Weezy, Lil Wayne, El Tucci, endorsed Donald Trump. When I say endorsed Donald Trump, he even took a picture with the president. Now, my engineer, if you can, I need you to do me a favor. Pull up the Chelsea, what's her name? Chelsea Hadley, the one that commented on Lil Wayne. Well, basically, she commented on 50 Cent. Yes, I want you to play that because when 50 Cent, she said he was playing, and then she turned around and said, "I mean, he's black." Like, what is that supposed to mean? What is that supposed to mean?
Girl, I've made those calls. I know exactly that hotel. Joy. It's on you, Joy.
So, yeah. So, Chelsea, the election is less than a week away. Be afraid. Be very afraid. And you've been very outspoken about urging everyone, to get out and vote. So how are you feeling about the election right now? About election night, actually? Are you going to be able to do it without 10 martinis, for example?
Well, no, obviously not, Joy. I mean, that's not going to happen. I have lots of edibles and cannabis at my house, and I expect a full stream of, well, I won't finish that sentence because it's morning TV. But
I want y'all to hear what she said.
I just want to encourage all people who have not voted yet to try to vote early, because we know the Republicans are going to pull some bull on election day and try to not have all the votes counted. So the earlier you get in your vote, the better we are. So if you're a mail-in ballot, please go and drop it off. Do not mail it now. It's too late to mail. Please go in and drop off your ballots.
Chelsea, last week, 50 Cent tweeted that he was voting for Trump because he discovered he would have to pay more taxes under a Biden administration. And you called him out and said he was now your, excuse me, least favorite ex-boyfriend. And I don't know where I've been because I didn't even realize that you had dated. But your back and forth with him on Twitter went really viral. And he seems to have backtracked on his support for Trump now. Have you spoken to him about this? Because it really made a lot of news.
Yes, and I understand. He called me the other night, 2 nights ago. We spoke for about a half an hour, and I texted him, I DM'd him, and I said, can you please call me about this? I don't want this to be public. I really want to know if you're serious about supporting Trump. And so he called me, and he wasn't serious. He was just screwing around on his Twitter.
Okay, press
he
pause.
is supporting Joe Biden.
That's a lie. Here, let me play this here. Turn that down a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and play you this little clip for Dr. Claude Anderson, who was talking to us about the slave codes and why people like Chelsea Handler and other people have issues when black men decide to not follow, the party of the Democratic Party, the party of slavery, let's keep it 100, and decides to actually be independent. But let's check this out. This is about the slave codes. We're going to get into the slave codes after this. No, I don't think it is. I don't know why it's not playing, though. That's crazy. There it goes.
Hand to defend himself against a white person.
Okay, here, let's check this out.
White people were told that it was their duty, in fact.
I don't want to mess this up, so let's do this.
Public policy stayed in effect until, let's say, 1705, for instance. In
Talking about black codes.
It was codified in what we call the slave codes. And the slave code said at that time defined how in the future all whites would behave and how blacks would behave. And that's why what we call the Southern ethics, where blacks could not challenge whites or raise his hand to defend himself against a white person. And in fact, white people were told that it was their duty, in fact, to suppress. That's right. And severely handle blacks in order to enforce the status quo, or they themselves would be considered lawbreakers. Right. In other words, they violate the code, the white code. And see, in that time, what the code said is that every white must enforce this code. Every religious institution must subscribe to it. All levels of government must be responsible to it. Okay, it must be passed on through your social customs, but and also through your laws. I put a lot of those laws in the back of the book. Right. Okay, and once that was codified in 1705, everybody understood the law. Then by 1710, for instance, Virginia then said now that we have a unified white community, they then broke up the black community by passing what they call meritorious manumission in 1710. And what that says now is to make sure that blacks never have a strong sense of community and unify itself, we will grant meritorious manumission. That's why all these southern states had meritorious manumission laws to any black who goes against his own people. Which in effect said that blacks could be freed. That's right. To enjoy rights and privileges in the society for becoming traitors to their own race. Right, as a free black. But it would never could be comparable to a white. Right. So when that law was passed, then we found that a black could be rewarded for squealing another black, what we call crabbing. And out of a possible 150 so-called insurrections or revolts, slave revolts, a black person squealed in every one of them. Shakur, and then public policy stated
so look.
Until, let's say, 1705, for instance. In 1705,
that's crazy. I couldn't even circle that. So, those are the black codes. And a lot of people don't understand what the black codes were, but we're going to get through this. And I got to keep it 100. We got the election coming up on Tuesday. And I'm here to let you know, like I said, I'm an official write-in candidate. So you could actually write me in as well. But let's be honest. That sounds familiar. If a black man decides to, be free and to speak up, it's the blacks that actually go after him. But I'm here to let you know today that no matter win, lose, or draw, we're going to be all right. Win, lose, or draw, because we're going to be invited to the party or we're going to crash the party. So you got Donald Trump's platinum plan. You think he's going to be the president of the United States if he gets reelected and not have to deal with that? No. You can't make black men promises. Now, I don't know how politics was done before, meaning I do know, but it was weird how we just, as a people, just did not follow up or did not try to, at least, have a shot at it. At least have a shot at it. But time's up, and we're going to do our thing. So when I talk about the black codes, can you turn that down a little bit? So what he's talking about is actually true, the black codes. Now, the black codes were restrictive laws designed to limit the freedom of African Americans and ensure their availability as a cheap labor force after slavery abolished during the Civil War. Through the Union victory, had some over 4 million slaves were granted their freedom. Now, the question of free black status is to the post-war South was still very unresolved. Now, under the black codes, many states required blacks to sign yearly labor contracts. If they refused, they risked being arrested, fined, and forced into unpaid labor. Outrage over black codes undermined the support by President Andrew Johnson. Now, Andrew Johnson was the vice president for Abraham Lincoln. It's kind of weird that a Southern Democrat would be on the ticket with Abraham Lincoln. And it's kind of, like I said, you can only do so many things, you got to repeat it. So we're looking at the pattern right here. You had Abraham Lincoln, who signed the Emancipation Proclamation, had a Democratic Southerner as a vice president. He was assassinated. So guess who became president? Guess who became president, and guess who pretty much was the overseer of the Reconstruction of the South? Now, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, but he was assassinated. So but Andrew Jackson became the president of the United States, and he oversaw and he implemented the black codes. Now, the black codes is like serious. Now, they didn't address these black codes back until 1964 with the Civil Rights Movement. And think about this. In the Civil Rights Movement, John F. Kennedy was the president. But for some strange reason, just like this dynamic here with Abraham Lincoln and Andrew Jackson, Lyndon B. Johnson was the vice president. And he was the governor of Texas, and he was a Republican. But for some reason, they wanted him on that Democratic ticket because the 33 delegates for the Electoral College votes for the state, as well as the Southern vote. But look at these similarities. When I say similarities, I mean, look what happened. Look what happened to Abraham Lincoln with the Democratic Southerner as a vice president, who basically, pushed us back another 100 years. Because it didn't get readdressed until 1964, from 1864, 1865. Now look where we have with the Kennedy dynamic. Kennedy was assassinated in the state of Lyndon B. Johnson, and Lyndon B. Johnson became the president of the United States. And for his reelection, he said it himself, I'm gonna have those Negroes voting Democratic for the next 200 years, and called Dr. King and all those Negro leaders into the White House and signed the Civil Rights Acts. But we know without shadow of a doubt the Civil Rights Acts pretty much was a setup, because they added everything, race, creed, color, the whole nine. So 55 years later, we celebrated women's empowerment, and 50 years later, we just celebrated 50 years of pride. And this last year, we just celebrated another black man being killed in terms of George Floyd. So what you point at? Okay, so who we got in the chat? That's my boy Theo. What's up, dog? Hey, we chopping wood, man. We chopping wood. Trying to educate the people and let them know that we're going to be all right no matter what. So win, lose, or draw, we're going to be invited to the party, or we're going to crash the party. So with the Lyndon B. Johnson on the ticket with... let's put this together. Lyndon B. Johnson on the ticket with John F. Kennedy, and then fast forward to Barack Obama. Barack Obama put Joe Biden on his ticket for the same reason, because Joe Biden clearly was a segregationist till 1977, was a separatist. Corn Pop, the West Virginia white supremacist grand wizard of the KKK, was the known senator, and he said Corn Pop was a good dude. So the same dynamic with Obama, because he needed to win the South. So fast forward to today. You have Joe Biden, who clearly was not the person that the people were selecting. Pete Buttigieg and everybody was pretty much trending in the same category. No one has pretty much stepped out until they decided to make Joe the runner. And when Joe did this, he went to South Carolina and talked to, I can't remember the congressman's name, but he knows Joe, probably about an 80-year-old congressman in South Carolina. And I remember him saying without a shadow of a doubt, we know Joe and Joe know what. But check this out though. Joe Biden he's not all the way there. So I watch a lot of the campaigning, and I watch him repeat the same thing. And it's kind of like, if you had a job interview and the person's not telling you what their qualities are, but the person is telling you why they got fired from the other company, and it's the other company's fault. And don't even tell you why you should even hire them. They're just throwing the other company under the bus. And that's what Joe Biden's doing. But like I said, it's a win-win for us anyway. So regardless, win, lose, or draw, we're going to be invited to the party. We're going to crash the party. But look at the running mate that Joe Biden has. He has Kamala Harris as the running mate. Joe Biden is cognitively declining, and it's not, he's a smart guy. He's just getting old. And when they get old real fast. And I'm watching a presidential candidate can't talk without a teleprompter, can't even like hold a conversation without stuttering. And I know he had a speech impediment, but when you get older, it comes back. I had a speech impediment. And I'm sure when I get older, I'm gonna start talking with my lisp. But as a man in my prime, I can kind of control and manage that. But by Joe Biden having Kamala Harris on his ticket, I mean, think about it, man. Just say, for instance, if he just cannot complete his, hypothetically thinking, just if he cannot complete his administration, she's by default the president. And we know without shadow of a doubt, she's going to do whatever they tell her to do. And whoever they is, we don't know. Because her and her husband, Doug, not black Doug, white Doug, been campaigning all over the country. And they said that he's been holding meetings. And I know he ain't been holding no meetings with no brothers. He's having meetings with his Jewish community. So look at that dynamic. So now you got the Jewish first, second, vice president, first man, whatever you want to call it. But look at the dynamic. And this is why you have Common and Offset hosting an event for Joe Biden. Hollywood. And like I said, Jeezy came out and said he support Joe Biden, but Jeezy got on Fox Soul, a show coming on. And he's liberal because he's dating the Chinese or the Asian female on the talk. So that's all Hollywood, that's all game, that's all an individual type situation. But win, lose, or draw, the Democratic Party will never be the same. And I'm going to say that again. Win, lose, or draw, the Democratic Party will never be the same because we know the truth and we're going to talk about the truth. So no matter who becomes president, we're going to crash the party or we're going to get an invite to the party. And one thing that, I always like to say, all things have purpose, and they do. So whoever becomes president, God ordained it. God ordained it. So I don't want my people being mad, because if you're a CNN person, CNN will have you pissed off on a daily basis because, they report the news, but, they do it in such a fearful, scary way because according to CNN, we all about to die tomorrow. Because you could turn to CNN as doom and gloom. The coronavirus is 100,000 more cases and 3% emergency room occupants. And then they showed a female who passed and said, we're going to focus on this one person. The woman was morbidly obese. Now, I'm not saying let's not take this thing serious. Let's take it serious as multiple heart attacks. But we cannot live in fear. And this is why the Democratic Party has lost a large volume of black men, because there's no way we can live in fear. Now, our sisters, like I said, we can't protect you. So you guys are okay. But as black men, you're about to see the biggest movement, black renaissance in American history, because nothing's stopping us from moving on right now. We got Republicans and Democrats fighting for our votes. You got the Democratic Party going back to Atlanta, going back to places that they've won historically that they've never lost. Why? But this here, like I said, next week, we're going to have some fun. And next week, we're going to get the plan going, because the 13th Amendment is one of our major moves in terms of fixing the system. Like I just read off just a little bit of the black code. So we have to deal with the systemic stuff. So when it comes to systemic, can you pull up the 13th Amendment? So my engineer is going to pull up the 13th Amendment. We're going to actually read it and understand, so you can understand what we're saying when we're saying we're going to ratify or we're going to amend the 13th Amendment. Because there's a clause in there, and based on the slave codes, it's supported. And when Dr. Claude Anderson was talking, he was talking around 1715, 17, but 20, but in 1725, Willie Lynch came and he gave that speech. But go ahead. This is the 13th Amendment.
Okay, so 13th Amendment is neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except for the punishment.
Oh, wait. Read that again slowly.
Okay, neither slavery nor involuntary
servitude. Okay.
Except as a punishment.
Stop. Except as a punishment of what?
Crime.
Okay. Do you know that in the black codes, their issue in terms of getting these people locked up was vagrant laws, meaning you got 4 million free slaves. Where you gonna go? So the criminalization clause has to be amended. And what I'm saying is, when you talk about systemic racism, when you talk about a system, when you're talking about, you know, the belly of the beast, you know, when you talk about fighting a life, you're going to have to know what you're fighting. So what I'm saying is, post 2020 presidential election, we need to be on board, and we need to fight both sides and get them to amend the 13th Amendment. Because if we can do that and take the profiting off of the prisons, because it's modern day slavery, the man just read the 13th Amendment. Except, so you could just think about how corrupt things are. They could just say you committed a crime. You can't do anything about that. You know, for those who survived the 90s, the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I mean, man, I tell people I'm 49 going on 89 because we dog years here in LA, because most of my friends and people from the community either dead or in jail. But after this election, we're going to be all right. So when I talk about amending the 13th Amendment, that's what I mean. Taking the criminalization clause out, meaning if you commit a crime, you're not a slave. You just have to do your time. And another thing that I want to throw in before I switch gears and jump into sports is the city of Compton has presented 800 people in their community. If you could look that up as well, Rashid. The city of Compton is granting is doing a study for a living wage. If you could get a hand clapping while you're doing that. A living wage. I believe it's 800 people in the city of Compton that's going to be granted a living wage, meaning the city is going to pay them a living wage to survive. Because I believe we can have our cake and eat it too. We could be a socialist, have, you know, part socialism, you know, part capitalism. Because if I got to vote for capitalism versus socialism, I'm rolling with capitalism all day. Because like Dr. King had a dream, we all got a dream. And we all want to leave our children's an inheritance. But you got it yet? Okay.
Okay, so 800 people. It's basically saying more than 5 residents live in poverty, double the national average. Since the pandemic began, the unemployment rate has risen about 7% and more than 20%. But a select group will have a chance to help reversing those trends as part of a pilot called the Compton Pledge.
The Compton Pledge.
That will aim to assist 800 people through no strings attached direct cash payments over 2 years. 2 years.
So give them a hand clap for that. So now this living wage thing, I think they're opening Pandora's box, because if they pull that off, like I said, we as blacks, we're framing our community. Okay, so if this little pilot program works, then it could be implemented. And when I say implemented, it could be implemented for at-risk youth. Now, it's $13,000 per student in the LA Unified School District. $13,000. It's $59,000. So let's just round it up to $60,000 to incarcerate a man in prison. So, at-risk youth, $60,000 living wage, red line to stay in certain communities. Okay, but the trade-off is you can't commit a crime. You commit a crime, you get life. I mean, I know I'm exaggerating, but it has to be a very harsh penalty if the state, city, or government is willing to pay you a living wage. Now, we're going to keep an eye on this pilot program just to see how it works, but go ahead.
And the exact amount received by each participant will vary, but they will all get at least several $100s. Parents of multiple children will receive larger amounts.
Man.
Compton Pledge has already raised more than $2.5 million in private donations, all of which will go to the Fund for Guaranteed Income, which will then move those funds to the 800 recipients. Ultimately, the Compton Pledge aims to raise $8.1 million.
Well, hey, they're on their way. So I like the Compton Pledge because the living wage will, in my mind, it has to have a connection to crime. It has to it has to be earned. You can't just get it and, you know, buy a sack. No, you have to get it and be reasonable, you know, law-abiding citizen, and make sure that, you don't mess it up for the next group of people. But some people could say it's making them lazy or whatever you want to say. At the end of the day, if we can somehow cut through the systemic racist systems when it comes to poverty, crime, education, to me it's all a good thing. It's all a good thing. So now the living wage, we're going to read, because a lot of times we talk about stuff and we never revisit it. So we're going to keep our eye on this one here, because it is something that we need to talk about, because we're already getting ready for 2024. We're not sitting back. So clearly already for 2024, we want to amend the 13th Amendment. We want to open up the living wage, and we want to make poverty the #1 mission. Because if we stop poverty, then we can deal with crime. But clearly with the black codes, it's all coded in both parties. Now, neither party is innocent of this, okay? Now, both parties, because it's in the sense of white supremacy. But what black people got to understand, y'all got to stop being white supremacists, because my only issues are with black men and white women. Black women, typically, they hear me and they just, they don't agree with me, but they don't really debate too much. But the man, he want to have an argument about knowledge, not understanding it's about putting these things into practice. And I've had a few situations with white women, with Karens and Beckys. Like I said, we talked about it earlier on, was that 22? Vote yes on 22?
Yes.
Yes on 22 for the rideshare drivers. And I drove the rideshare for 3 years. I don't do it anymore. But I jumped in a little random, escalated to a big body Cadillac. And in 2 years, I probably put 100,000 miles on a brand new Cadillac. But made some bread. And I would get up early in the morning and I would do the luxury airport rides, go downtown and all that. And I was able to meet a whole bunch of people. I've taken 5 stars, over 5,000 rides. So I've met a few people. And one of my situations in terms of how my life was affected by the slave codes by white women was the night of the ESPY Awards. The night of the ESPY Awards, I had a pickup on Georgia and Olympic, which is the not the Ritz-Carlton side of the JW Marriott. So these 2 white women came out in their evening gowns, and we're going to this Hollywood function, this function in Hollywood. And when I pulled out, I didn't realize that I could have kept going across Georgia and just jumped on the 110. I made a left, but when I realized it, I busted U in the middle of Olympic, because there was no traffic, like a serious U, and then just banked. And then I saw the motorcycle cop follow me. So before I got on the freeway, I looked at the 2 riders. I said, hey, just relax a little bit. I just did a little traffic violation, so see what I could do about this ticket. These 2 white women, they popped up looking around. What? This white motorcycle cop came to the car, and by the time he got to my mirror, he was getting cussed out by these 2 white ladies. And it was like right after it was, I don't think it was George Floyd, but it was, we always have something. So it was a situation going on. They was cussing them out. You're a racist. You know, why a black man can't have a Cadillac? They just going in on it. And I'm looking at him like, hey, like, that's them. I'm thinking I'm about to catch some sanctions. And in my mind, I know the game. Hey, use some discretion, officer. I saw you. I was going to try to get out of it. But before I could even open my mouth, that man looked at me. That police officer, LAPD, getting cussed out by 2 white women, looked at me and said, hey, get out of here. So, and I said, listen, I'm going that way. Go ahead and make the U again. So the whole time to the Hollywood Hills, these white women are saying, we know your pain, and it reminds me of the Chelsea Handler, talking to 50 Cent, talking about he was playing and all that lying. He's not. Because white women, you guys are the most privileged people on the planet. Y'all start wars, y'all get people hung, lynched, all of that. So we have to stop communicating when it comes to our maneuverment, because clearly we just got some history on their job is to make sure we don't grow. Why are we not going to church right now? because the Spirit will allow us to communicate, and they don't want us going to church. It's like they didn't want us to read. Why? Because you have black people thinking they special and they can come into Kevin Nash studio and do radio shows and tell the truth. Yeah, because we free. So now we got to live like we're free. But those two women invited me to a think tank, and I was supposed to be their star-stud Negro. So when I showed up to the party in what was it, Bel Air? No, Brentwood. These two white women were just, here's Bushan, we've experienced what he experienced, and, we understand what it means to be a minority. I'm like, y'all white women. And then I said, hold up. I'm a smart guy. So I linked in both of them. One of the females was married to the head of the USC dentistry department, and the other one was married to a city manager for the city of Santa Monica and lived on PCH. So when I'm talking to them, I'm saying, how do you know my struggle? And they say, because we're women. I'm like, wait a minute, but y'all white women. So the whole function's going on. It's time to eat. I'm getting my food. Mi estudio español 3 años en la escuela. So I'm talking Spanish to one of the guys. And he's saying, they do this all the time. They rich, but they act like they minorities. So they're talking, and then she starts saying, well, I want to bring this person up. And I'm like, you better not bring me up. And she said, I'm going to bring this person up. Give a hand for our friend, Rashawn Glover. I said, Bushan. And then she said, I got the mic, and I said, I had to be honest with him. I said, wait a minute. I didn't know what the function was, but thank you for inviting me. But you guys just started a revolution. And they were like, wait for me to just be their slave, waiting for me to speak for them. They was like, yes, we started a revolution. I said, no. A black revolution, a slave revolt, because y'all the problem. And the look that they had in their eyes. So when we have white celebrities and white women and women like on The View talking about having an issue with a man because he wants to vet both sides, there's nothing wrong with that. Because clearly there's a certain type of man that's they're trying to eliminate. With mass incarceration, there's, millions of black alpha males locked up with no hope of coming home. And even when they come home, we don't have the programs that we have. But this is where we come in, and we have to establish those programs, and we have to be the facilitators and be the ones that bridge the gap instead of asking. Because a lot of people say, why are we asking and begging? We're not asking and begging, but you got to see that we just want to be free. Now, we talk about reparations. You don't have to give me $1. Long as we could get these laws redacted and get off of this systemic system that's systematically keeping us so out of warp that we don't even realize that we're hurting each other. And the crazy thing about it, the election is Tuesday. A lot of people been voting, and the most Googled question is, how do I change my vote? That's the most Googled question, because there's so much going out. The study came out today. 93% of the news coverage is negative to Donald Trump. 68% of the news is positive to Joe Biden. When I look at Joe Biden and Donald Trump, it's like going to a batting cage. Donald Trump is over there at 90, hitting the fat hit, just dial, batting practice. Joe Biden over there slow pitch and struggling. So I'm just being honest with you. Like I said, I can't rock with neither side, so like I said, I'm a write-in candidate, and I would love your vote. So you can write me in, Bushan Glover. You can write in Jesus Christ, okay, because we do not want to be guilty by association. We just don't. And that's just how I go. So like I said, we're working on a longer extended show because I had to get that out. Give me a hand clap, because we're about to change this up a little bit, talk about some sports. So next week, we're going to keep this thing going, and I got some other dates so we can actually chop it up a little more. Now, let's get into sports. Now, give me another hand for sports right now, because the Los Angeles Dodgers, just 17 days from the Los Angeles Lakers winning its 17th championship, the Los Angeles Dodgers follow up with a win against the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. Now, Los Angeles, in terms of a city, is on fire right now. When I say fire, you got three major sports. You got football, basketball, baseball, NFL, NBA, MLB. Los Angeles have 2 championships of the 3 major league sports in the world. So the Rams, Chargers, we got 2 football teams now, but 2 out of 3 ain't bad. And to show you how stubborn some people are, I got a neighbor, and he's an older guy, and we talk politics a little bit, but you know, he's an older guy, so he's set in his ways, and he's a Chicago Bears fan. So a day before the Dodgers won the game, I said, "Hey man, how you doing?" "Oh, I'm good." I said, "You know what? The Lakers just won the championship, right?" He said, "Yeah, that was pretty good." And then I said, "Well, if the Dodgers win the championship, that's 2 out of 3 major league sports. Do you know that makes LA, you know, the city of champions once again?" That man looked me dead in my eyes and said, "I don't agree with you." I said, "Hold up, it's nothing to agree about, sir. I'm telling you some facts. I just don't agree with you." And I just remind me how people are just set in their ways when it comes to, you know, trying to just give them a general understanding. So just like Oprah Winfrey said, when it comes to politics, a generation is going to have to die out, like literally, because, you know, you can't teach old dogs new tricks. And typically old dogs get slow. But the Lakers and the Dodgers. And one thing that I did see, I'm sure you guys heard of this guy, Dr. Umar Johnson. Dr. Umar Johnson did a video on YouTube, and I didn't even watch it. I just saw the I know how he get down, and I just saw the clickbait when it says the NBA rigged the season so LeBron James could win a championship. And I sat back and I said, "Hold up, bro, you must have never played no ball in your life, especially basketball, because you can't rig basketball games because it's a make and miss league. You got to make those shots." And what I saw players out there playing hard. Now, if LeBron James and the Lakers was more, you know, balanced to adjust to the bubble, I get that part, but the NBA didn't rig anything. The NBA basically continued on with their season without one corona outbreak, so that deserves a hand clap for that. So, and we applaud baseball. And then football, you know, they're having their issues when players test positive. They have to, you know, go into quarantine and all of that. But, you know, they still figure it out and they still keep playing. And the University of Clemson, their star quarterback, probably the Heisman Trophy front runner, Trevor Lawrence, thank you, has contracted coronavirus. And he's being quarantined. He lives alone. They said the quarterbacks, you know, they socially distanced, and he won't be playing this weekend. But we talking about teams like Clemson, you know, they got a 5-star that's going to be playing. I don't even know the guy's name, but he about 6'4", 240. So when you watch Clemson this weekend, you're going to see, you know, you're going to see a brother out there doing his thing. So the LA Lakers, now this is the mecca. Now, since I got my sports guy right here, Houston has a new coach.
Yes.
They hired a brother. What's his name?
Robert Silas.
Robert Silas. Give him a hand clap. So Robert Silas is the head coach for the Houston Rockets. Tyronn Lue, the head coach for Los Angeles Lakers.
Clippers.
Huh?
Clippers.
Dippers, man. Ain't no Clippers. Dippers.
Clippers.
All right, my brother. So Ty Lue, and then Doc Rivers transferred. Where Doc at right now?
He's with the 76ers.
76ers. So a lot of coaching changes, but that's good to see 3 brothers land, because in the NFL, when black coaches lose their jobs, they get instantly replaced by white guys. So that's a good thing. So in terms of sports, man, LA is they doing their thing. You got the Pac-12 is back, the Mountain West is back. San Diego State is playing their home games at the Fidelity Health Center in Carson.
Go Aztecs.
Huh?
Go Aztecs.
Yeah, exactly. And my cousin's son, little Dallas Branch, cornerback, San Diego State University. So hopefully they can open it up and you can watch them. But all the games come on CBS Sports Channel as well as ESPN. So entertainment, sports, politics, and money. So kind of start off with entertainment and dived into a little politics. But the black codes, man, that's real. So when you black people, If your brother have a difference of an opinion other than you, it's okay. Ask that man why you feel the way that you feel, because if you're from South Central Los Angeles or, you know, an urban city that was affected by the crack era or the crack epidemic, you know what I shall doubt that they didn't have no good intentions with that bill. That bill was to pretty much solidify where they want to be right now. But clearly it didn't work on all of us, because I talk to free thinking brothers on a daily basis. I don't know now one person personally that promotes voting for Joe Biden. Now they'll say some slick stuff like, hey, we got to get him up out of there. But they'll never say, hey, I'm voting for Joe Biden because he's our guy. But at the end of the day, we're going to be all right. And I like to say all things have purpose, but God, no win, lose, or draw. God's going to ordain either side. And like I said, it's a win-win for us. So I want y'all to already go ahead and start getting excited, because, you know, if Biden win, we crash in the party, and the Democratic Party will never be the same again, because they're going to have to address these black codes. They're going to have to address the party of slavery. They're going to have to address Willie Lynch. They're going to have to address the Confederate South. They're going to have to address everything, because whatever reason that the baby booming generation just decided to go mute and go silent based on the black codes, that generation by default sold us out. And sometimes you got to sell your people out for them to survive, because we survived. So if you had to do it again, you know, hey, but moving forward, we are not our parents' Negroes. And like I said, you're going to see the biggest movement when it comes to social and economics, investments, ownership, the whole nine. Now, Nipsey Hussle, Kobe Bryant, George Floyd. I wonder who Nipsey would support by being a capitalist, by talking about business move, by talking about entrepreneurship, by talking about investments. I wonder who Master P endorses with all the businesses he got, and all he talks about is capitalism. All he talks about is product. All he talks about is taking things to another level. So we as a people, we're going to have to just understand, like, hey, we free, and it's okay to have a difference of opinion. You know, we're free, and it's okay for me to feel the way that I feel, and it's okay for you to feel the way that you feel. And like I said, with this presidential election, you know, a lot of people don't want to be guilty by association. The most Googled question is, how do I change my ballot after I mail it in? So moving forward, the platinum plan. So Trump, if he's reelected, hey, we'd be up there Thursday talking about the platinum plan. If Trump loses, we want the double platinum plan. And we want the Freedmen's Bank Bureau money. We'll talk about that next week as well. This is why we got to, you know, get more time, because B.L. Glover is supposed to be more my personality. But for some reason, I tend to go back to the Better Black America concept, because knowledge is power. So we're going to be all right. But when I look at that, the soul of America, okay, is your soul for sale? Mine's not. And that's dog whistle politics. Have you heard of Birth of a Nation? That's dog whistle politics. So basically the Democrats are talking to the white supremacists and letting them know that they still down. Because typically the Democrats hurt blacks 10 times more than Republicans just to get the support of Republicans. Think about it. The 94 crime bill passed the Senate 101-0, meaning every senator voted for the bill, including the vice president at the time. So that bill must have been bomb. And that bill was so bomb that it basically handicapped us. And that's what they will have an alliance for. They will vote, you know, for the, you know, for us to be in, you know, conditions that's not cool, long as we stay in the back. But when a black man opens his mouth and talks about investments, talks about business, talks about capitalism, talks about entertaining the party of capitalism, talking about entertaining the party that promotes entrepreneurship, less government, less taxes, because the slave codes, and the slave codes was enacted before 1725, and that's when Willie Lynch came in. So we're going to be talking about that as well, because God's people shall not perish due to the lack of knowledge. But no matter what, it's a win-win. And when I watch Joe Biden, man, talk about that doom and gloom, and it seemed like watching Donald Trump is watching a charismatic man speak, entertain, educate, and say some things off the hook, off the handle that, you know, some men can appreciate. But then Joe Biden, you know, hey, aren't you scared? Aren't you afraid that you're going to die? Aren't you broke? Like, no, bruh. You know, but that's that old slave master mentality. And think about the bedwetched concubine he has as his running mate. How are we going to get through 4 years of that? And there are some situations with his son, Hunter Biden, some emails that popped up. So if the Democrats win, we're going to be looking at the same thing that they did to Donald Trump. The same exact thing. So I hope this not a sequel. You know, like I said, I put my name in there, so I'm officially got a vote, and hopefully I can get 2 or 3%. I could beat these nuts this election. Hopefully, because like I said, I couldn't be guilty by association. My heart wouldn't allow me. You go in that booth, I can't. And like I said, if I had to pick a side, I would go with the Union, because all of the newly freed slaves that was freed from the Emancipation Proclamation that was signed by the Republican President Abraham Lincoln fought for the Union side. We didn't fight for no Dixiecrats. We didn't fight for the Confederate South. And the sad part about it, when Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, Andrew Jackson was the one to oversee. So we got played again. But like I said, this will not be no sequel. They never intended us to be their equal. So all this doom and gloom and punchlines as a presidential candidate is clearly, you know, being advised by blacks, because, you know, we want to hear the BS. We don't want to hear the real. We just want to hear the BS. But moving forward, just remember all that energy that y'all had. Just remember all of that extra that y'all was doing over these old white men. Just keep that same energy after this election. I'm telling you right now, we're going to be all right either way. So now you know what we're doing. So either get down or get out the way, because there's no room for the black man in the Democratic Party. No room. Because I needed a ride, and a car pulled up to pick me up, Rashid. It was this lesbian driving. There's a gay dude in the passenger seat. There was a transgender in the back, a queer, and a hermaphrodite. And they was trying to get me to roll with them, bro. So I walked. So at the end of the day, I ain't getting in that car. Why? If I get in that car, then that means I condone what they doing. And as a man, you know, hey, I don't have an issue what you do with your life, but my issue comes with promoting it. Because if you gay, if you a lesbian, if you queer, whatever, I was way worse than you as a whoremonger. Like literally. The Bible says a whoremonger is worse than all of that. But the difference is I'm not a whoremonger anymore, because I'm celibate, waiting on Miss Right. But I can't judge nobody. So that's like me coming up in here and say, Rashid, I was at the club last night, man. I took 3 of them home, dog. Here, look at the pictures. Here, won't you come with me? Won't you be a whoremonger too? I think God will punish me for that. So if I'm running around promoting alternative lifestyles to innocent children, letting my son run around in, you know, his mama's shoes, you know, letting him, you know, not allowing him to man up, that's why we have these issues. And clearly they took the man out the equation. And if you didn't know, just like with the black codes, they recruited white Southerners to come to California to be LAPD officers, and they recruited their wives to be social workers. And these white women social workers, ask your mom and them, these white women social workers actually went into the homes of black women and told them, look, if you got a man anywhere around here, you're going to lose these benefits. But if you have another baby, we'll give you some more money. Sounds like that little guaranteed wage out of Compton. So, you know, child credits and all of that. But, man, like I said, it's a win-win. We're going to win either way. But sometimes you just got to go with the flow. So our thing is entertainment, sports, politics, and money. And somehow they all go together because entertainment is sports and politics is money. So, you know, I killed 4 birds with 1 stone. So next week, we're going to basically get back to the format, the BL Glover Show. I'm going to have some merch. I'm going to be talking about some different things. And I will be working hard to figure out more time, either on a different outlet or at the same station. So with that being said, man, I got my other guy. He's up next. I see him ready to roll. Hey, you voted already, bro?
What's going on, brother?
You voted already? Go ahead.
You know, I just want to salute you, brother. You are a visionary. And I took the opportunity to listen to your podcast. Okay. And something that we've gone away from, family, is doing our own research and understanding that we don't have to be beholden to party. And one of the things you said is you cannot in good faith vote for either one of these candidates, so you're going to write yourself in as the presidential candidate. Sir, I am going to vote for you.
That's right, yeah. So hopefully I can trend over these nuts, because these nuts got 9% in South Carolina. 9%.
Wow.
So clearly they wasn't rocking with either of them either.
We are moving the needle. America, we are embarking on a whole new territory, whereas thank you, Kevin Nash, for giving us this opportunity for urban radio, so you can really hear the true voice of the people. Because let's be honest, I don't care what color you are, if you work for Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 7, CNN, Fox, they're all given a script.
Yeah. Yep.
Here at Accelerated Radio, it is our opinions, it is our lives, the walk that you have taken through life, and the experiences that you give people.
Right.
So that's genuine, it's sincere, and it's honest, and it's true urban radio.
That's right.
Brother, keep doing what you're doing.
Yes, sir. Give me a hand clap. Good looking, brother. So we about to get on up out of here, and I keep saying I'm gonna bring this song. I will eventually, but I'm gonna go out with it since we got about 4 minutes to go. We're greater than our limitations. They say we can't do what they head time. Faith is what we need, not a lot, a little bit more than the mustard seed. We're greater than our limitations. They say we can't do what they head time. Faith is what we need, not a lot, a little bit more than the mustard seed. Now one can move a molehill, 2 can move a mountain, 1 can move 10, 2 can move 10,000. They owe us reparations for slavery in this nation. We got to stand up. God promised us He'll never leave or forsake us. We're greater than our limitations. So, same bat channel, same bat station next week. And like I said, we'll be back to normal, and we'll know who the President of the United States is. And just to keep it 100 with you, we're going to be all right either way. We're going to be invited to the party, or we're going to what? Crash the party.